Hey there, boils and ghouls. This will be another video in our Fleshed Out Fridays series, Short Stories edition. We will be reviewing the first 3 stories in a book by Blair Daniels called Don't Scream, 60 Tales of Terror. Basically, I will be giving a brief overview of each story and my thoughts or opinions on them. Obviously, this implies there will be spoilers. I would first like to mention that the cover art of the book is really interesting and definitely draws you in if you are a fan of horror imagery. You should go take a look at it yourself. Either way, let us begin with the first short story. The first story is titled The Hitchhiker. This was a very short story, and instead of the usual hitchhiker story, where they hunt down and then murder the courteous driver, this story is quite different. Even though it was very brief, the moments of suspense were built up well, and the moment when the hitchhiker starts to help the driver was an interesting surprise. He tells the driver that his friend plans on killing him this weekend, and that he should just go home to his wife. The driver is understandably shocked by this revelation, and when he presses the hitchhiker for more information, the stranger suddenly has nothing else to say, and just asks to be dropped off at a cafe. The entire story rushes through this moment, and it still manages to create tension and surprise. I will say, however, that perhaps more time should have been spent developing this story a little further. I was left confused and wanted more answers about the hitchhiker, about why he helped this random driver, or why he left a gift at the end of the story. Also, why did the friend want to kill him? Was it because of the driver's wife, and the friend liked her for all these years for some reason? Why did the friend go to the driver's house and try to break in when there wasn't any evidence about the crime he wanted to commit? Perhaps you guys can create your own answers to these stories in the comments below. Either way, it was an easy and interesting read. The second story is titled Recaptcha. It was a short story about a person trying to verify with one of those photo selection steps. He keeps trying to select all the correct squares that contain what the question was asking, and continues to not be allowed to pass. Apparently, he is not selecting all of the correct picture squares, so he has to do it over and over again. He notices, though, that the pictures seem to be changing slightly, and after a few failed attempts, he finally gets through and passes. He is riled up at the end of this small test, though, and ends up reporting his experience to the police. Come to find out that the pictures he describes fit a missing persons situation. I thought the story was interesting, but I did not entirely understand why the main character was motivated to report this to the authorities. Sure, it may have been a bit strange, but nothing else really happened that could have disturbed them so much. Basically, I was not entirely following the emotional sequence of the character, so the conclusion felt rushed and unwarranted. The third story is titled My AirPods Make Terrifying Sounds. This short story was simply about a young woman that bought a pair of AirPods and is now able to hear the inner dialogue people are having with themselves, instead of hearing the words that they are speaking. She can only hear other people's inner thoughts when the AirPods are in her ears, though, and they have to be physically speaking. Otherwise, she cannot hear what they are thinking. The story was somewhat interesting to read through, but it was not the most compelling. What I mean is that I had no emotional or intellectual connection to the main character, so I did not really care what she did or why. The main character's reasoning seemed to cause me more annoyance, and did not make me feel like she was acting courageously or doing any sort of justice. The main character was unlikable, and none of her self-justification made her any less unlikable. At one point, she is being pursued by people that have the potential to hurt her because they wanted the AirPods back, and I did not really care. It actually resulted in solidifying my dislike of the character during this moment of the story. Her house is being broken into by people that could kill her, but instead of cooperating, she manages to conceal the AirPods they want and switches them out with another pair that does not possess these strange abilities. That just does not make any sense, and it does not feel like something a rational person would do. The story tried to justify the characters' actions by making them seem like they serve some great purpose, but really, the character is just being an idiot, and an annoying idiot at that. Moving on. Towards the end, she encounters a strange man at a diner, but with him, the AirPods only reveal static as his inner dialogue. The main character tries to explain it as being that the noise was static because his inner thoughts were so abhorrent it only translated as static, or it was a feature of the AirPods. I did not entirely understand why this last encounter was experienced. It was an interesting idea about the static concept, but it was not elaborated on, and the explanation given felt uninspired. The story felt like it had reached its conclusion with her just trying to make her way to the cabin, and the diner scene felt unnecessary. Well, members of our creepy club, that concludes my review of the first 3 stories in this book. They were all easy reads, and they all had some interesting parts, as well as some missteps along the way. I will continue to make my way through this book, and Dracula, of course. Thank you for watching.